Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my top 100 most attractive fictional characters, basically version 2. Because if you don't remember, back in November of 2018, over a year and 6 months ago, like over a year and a half ago, I did a list of this. I did a top 100 most attractive fictional characters. Now, since November 2018, I've seen a lot more stuff. I've seen more shows, I've played more games, I've seen other people play more games. And I wanted to kind of update this list. It's been a long time, and I wanted to make an updated list that more accurately reflected my thoughts on these characters and all today. Now, keep in mind, just ahead of everything, this list is my personal opinion based on what I find attractive in a character. Most of it is based off of physical attractiveness, not like just like the most shallow parts of it, like breasts or whatnot, or uh, muscles or anything. Not necessarily the most or the most shallow stuff when it comes to physical attractiveness. Just how they look in general, from their face to their color schemes, their general designs. Um, but I also will be taking into account their characters to a point. And I say to a point because there are some characters on this list from shows I have never seen. And I don't know if I ever will see these shows. At least one show I know for sure is represented here that I've never seen, and I don't know if I will see it. Um, the characters just really stuck out to me design wise, and that's why they're on this list. Mostly because of seeing them through fan art and various screenshots and stuff shared on social media. But most of the choices on this list are from shows and I have seen, games I've played or seen played, so on and so forth. Um, Also, while this is fictional characters, they have to be animated in some way, whether it's through video game graphics, whether it's through drawing or animation. Basically, like for example, I couldn't choose like Dean Winchester from Supernatural. And my reasoning for this is because it's a live action person portraying it. And in that sense, I'm basically saying that I find Jensen Ackles attractive. It's not really as when you're talking with a live action person, it does tend to revolve more around the actor portraying the character in terms of attractiveness. I think Jensen Ackles is extremely attractive. You could say the same with Misha Collins, who plays Cass on Supernatural. But again, that is the actors I find attractive. It doesn't really like connect to the characters themselves. I mean, there are certain aspects of the characters that I do find attractive, like Cass being hilariously naive about so much, um, and Dean's love of food. But it's mostly the physical stuff. So I just didn't want to include live action on here. Um, Also, there is no restriction to how many characters from any show or video game or property in general can be on this list. There's no restrictions to that. You could have like 10 characters from the same show. Doesn't matter. Um, and the reason I'm doing that specifically is because there are 100 entries on here. Because there are so many entries, I feel that it's okay to just allow as many from the same property as possible. Because that way it won't, even if they're like bunched up a lot, it won't feel like they're taking up too much of the spaces, you could say. Um, Other than that, there's no real rules. But one thing a lot of you might be wondering about is will there be underage characters on here? And I'm just going to say right off the bat, yes. And here's the thing, here's the reason why I find no issue with that, and why I would find no issue with someone putting underage characters on their list, provided they're not like 5 years old or some shit like that. Because this is a list based on just attractiveness. It's not saying that I want to see porn of these of underage characters necessarily. It's not saying I want to imagine sexual intercourse with them or anything. It's just saying that I find their designs visually pleasing. That I think that they are attractively drawn. And as I've stated in the past before, that's in every way part of designing characters, even underage characters. You want, unless the point is legitimately to make them unattractive, when designing a character, you want to make them attractive because it makes them appeal more and it makes people connect to them more. Ironically enough, even like people who aren't necessarily the most attractive people necessarily, or at least the most conventionally attractive, because attractiveness is completely subjective. But even the ones who aren't necessarily the most conventionally stereotypically attractive people, they tend to relate and connect more with those kinds of characters just because they're appealing to the eye. Your attention is drawn to them. It's not a sexual thing. It's not any creepy weird thing. It's just this character is drawn attractively. It's as simple as that. Plus, on top of that, to be fair, they're fictional characters. It's not like it has nothing to do with your connections to real life people in any way. Because there's a lot of fictional characters I find attractive that if I saw someone in real life who looked like that, I probably wouldn't find them attractive. It's because of how certain looks translate to animation and whatnot in comparison to how they translate to real life. For example, I've seen cosplays that nail a character so perfectly, like even in the facial expressions and just look. Like I've seen cosplayers who look like a real life version of the character they're cosplaying, even in the face, and that's insane. And a lot of the times, I don't find them as attractive. A lot of times I find them, it's like just something's off, and that's because the character is like, this is how they are designed to look through animation, through fictional like visual media rather than live action. So seeing a real person look that way is it's like an uncanny valley kind of thing. I feel like a lot of people just automatically assume that your preferences for that kind of stuff, for animation and whatnot, especially, uh, like signifies your preferences for real life people, and that's not a lot of times the case. Um, Especially for me, like I really love buff girls in animation, but a lot of times I like some buff girls in real life, but there's a certain point where it goes to a point where I just am not attracted to them in real life if they're like too buff and stuff. But in animation, if a character's like that, it it takes a lot longer to get to the point where they're too buff, basically, for my tastes. Because again, it's animation, it's art, it looks different. So yeah, I'm just trying to kind of prove a point here. Um, the point is they're fictional characters, and I'm judging this with their attractiveness based on just their design and how like well designed they are in that manner. Just in case anyone was confused, it has nothing to do with anything weird or sexual or anything. Because, well, honestly, for me, it's like I don't really think about that too often, especially when judging up even real life people and stuff. Um, or any characters or whatnot. It's like it's not on my mind most of the time. So anyway, anyway, um, so this list is going to be redirected to just to be safe. And here's the thing: I'm using photos for, or well, photos. I'm using pictures and stuff, mostly from the content, but for a couple of them, I do have fan art because the content is low graphics, you could say. So I'm using fan art to represent them. I will give credit for that for the artists. Um, but yeah, it's just like I'm mostly using pictures. I'm probably gonna use music that's royalty free, but at the same time, I just want to be safe. I don't want to risk anything. Um, I'm honestly I'm afraid to risk anything. So I just want to be perfectly safe. So I am going to redirect this. It is just going to be basically flipping through the pictures with the music over top. Um, there's not going to be much of anything else to it. I'm not using clips or anything because getting 100 clips would be just way too hard. It would take way too long and just, I don't want to do it. um, and yeah, it's just some of these are like from games where it's like pretty still, so the clips I'd have to get would be from like Let's Plays or whatnot, because there's like no real cut scenes or anything. But again, the point is that I just want to be safe with that. Um, and keep in mind, there will be characters on this list that were on the other list, the last one from November 2018, and they might be in different orders than in that list, and that's because my tastes do change and evolve and grow as time goes on. They always have. Um, I might think one character is more attractive than another at one point, but then later down the road, I'll think the opposite. And it just it changes and everything. So yeah, there will be some changes at that. There's some new characters added to this, of course, and we'll just kind of go from there. I actually ended up with new characters being added and stuff, like coming off of the old list. I ended up having to get rid of almost 40 characters who just didn't make the top 100. And again, that's based off of the list I had last time with new characters being added in. Either way, I think we've discussed this long enough. I do want to hear in the comments below as well, though, what some of your favorite characters in terms of attractiveness are in animation, video games, comics, yada yada. Who are some of your most attractive characters throughout fiction? Um, you obviously don't need to put an entire top 100, but tell me your thoughts on all of that. And thank you in the meantime so much for tuning in. Once again, the actual list will be down in the description below. There will be linked to probably both BitChute and Google Photos. Tell me what you think, and for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.